If you went into an art museum in any great city in the 19th century, the art you saw would have fallen into just a few categories. Painting, sculpture, and perhaps a bit of pottery dominated the collections, which would be displayed hanging on the walls, placed on pedestals, or shown in glass cases. But by the 20th century, some artists were looking for new ways to express their ideas about the world. In 1912, a French artist named Georges Braque bought a roll of wallpaper that he saw in a shop window. The wallpaper had a fauve wooden grain pattern. He began to incorporate the wallpaper into some charcoal drawings he was making. When his friend and fellow artist Pablo Picasso saw what George had done, he was astonished. They both began to experiment with using different printed material in their art. This technique became known as papier-collé, or in English, collage. The use of this pre-made material added a dimension of meaning to their compositions by alluding to aspects of reality in a new way. Braque and Picasso were thought to be the first artists that combined, or mixed media in their art. A new genre was born. When World War I broke out in Europe, some artists fled to Switzerland to escape the horror of the war. Even though Switzerland was a neutral country, these artists were deeply affected by the events of World War I and wanted to use art to protest the fighting. They began to question the very notion of art and its value to society. They wanted to make a kind of anti-art that defied beauty and reason. To make their nonsense work, these artists used everyday, ordinary materials. Kurt Schwitters began to attach bits of wood, metal, and even garbage to his paintings. Hannah Höch cut up cheap magazines to make photo montages. Raoul Hausmann and Sophie Taeuber-Arp combined common objects together in a kind of three-dimensional collage to make a new genre of sculpture called assemblage. The idea that artists didn't have to make everything that they used in art disturbed some artists and art critics that felt that part of art's value was to show off the artist's skill. The use of images or objects that are made by someone else is called appropriation. Artists who use images or objects made by others in their work feel that the originality and meaning of the work comes from the new connections that arise from combining these elements in novel ways. While the traditional art world found this new art to be controversial, the combining of different medias opened the door for new generations of artists to experiment with new materials and techniques. The definition of what art was and could be had been forever expanded. By the 1930s, mixed media artists were off to the races. Some artists tore up their previous work and reassembled it. Others collected found objects and constructed art from it. Robert Rauschenberg even used his bed to make art. As women artists became more recognized, they incorporated new techniques that were traditionally seen as feminine to address issues of inequality. Artists of color might include material that was from their experience of discrimination to highlight the ongoing issues of racism or to celebrate their heritage. New technologies allowed artists to incorporate video and digital material into their work. Not all artists who use mixed media appropriate the work of others. Some artists find that by using more than one media, it helps them express their ideas better. Iranian artist Shirin Neshat writes Arabic calligraphy over her own photographs. American artist Judy Chicago used ceramics, painting, and needlework to make her dinner party celebrating famous women. The term mixed media can apply to any art where the artist has combined different media. Some recognizable categories of art that use mixed media have emerged, but it's important to realize that these categories are always expanding and overlapping in contemporary art. There are no rules about what an artist can do.